There we are. Now it's registering it. I had to unplug and replug it. It was just not being... Now I still have to reopen Audacity because I had the audacity to try to fix it while it was still open. And I'm being so dramatic. Audio setup, recording device. Yes, it's showing up finally. Okay. Yay! It's working now. I'm excited. Alright, let me open the book. I have to. You guys. I want to hear a motorcycle. Chapter 19. Selection Day. The recruits stood in tight rows, their breath forming thin clouds in the crisp air, muscles still sore from the grueling week. Today was the moment they'd all waited for, the division selections. Tomiski stood at the front, hands clasped behind his back, his gaze unreadable as he surveyed them. "The decision is not mine," he finally said, his deep voice cutting through the stillness. "You've trained, you've fought, and now you stand before the 5. They will decide which of you is worthy to join their ranks." His gaze flickered over them, pausing briefly on Alice. "If your name is not called, you will remain with the militia and continue to serve. There is no shame in that. But for those chosen, your path will change." The 5 commanders stood behind him, their expressions as unreadable as ever. Then, without hesitation, Justa Valance stepped forward. "I will begin," she announced, her voice smooth and composed. "The Shade Cloaks do not take warriors. We take weapons." Her dark eyes swept across the crowd, pausing for only a moment before she spoke the name whispered among recruits for weeks. "Alice Halcyon." Murmurs rippled through the assembled recruits. Some were unsurprised. Blip. Blip, blip, blip. "I can hear you, Buggy. Can you not?" "There's a stink bug in my room who is being rude." Nope, wrong one. "Halcyon." Murmurs rippled through the assembled recruits. Some were unsurprised. Others barely concealed their shock. Alice stepped forward, her face unreadable, but her heart pounded. This was what she had wanted, what she had fought for. Valus Sarrowwind of the Moon Guards scoffed. "You think you can control that one?" Justa smirked. "No, I think she can control herself." Sorry Grimholt of the Frostblade Vanguard folded his arms. "Or burn everything in her path." Justice smirked in it fade as she stepped back. One by one, the other commanders made their selections. Jessup Marak was caused. Sever cord. Giuseppe Marak was called by Varick Colmare to join the ice-forged artificers. The wiry recruit grinned, muttering, "Artifice and madness, a dangerous pairing." Varick only nodded, as if Jessup's cryptic nature was expected.
Hi, Hixie. I love you. Appreciate ya.
Next, Sir Grimholt stepped forward, his cold gray eyes scanning the crowd. The Frostblade Vanguard does not take those who hesitate. We take those who strike first. He motioned towards Sol Dresta. You will do. Sol smirked. As he stepped forward, oh, I did the pacing wrong. Sol smirked as he stepped forward, glancing at Alice. Looks like we're both moving up in the world. Vaelith Sarrowwind took her turn next, her voice calm but authoritative. The moon god does not break. We do not falter. Her sharp eyes settled on Rebecca Sworn. You will stand with us. Rebecca exhaled, rolling her shoulders before stepping forward. I was starting to think no one was going to call my name. And just like that, the selections were over. Only 20 recruits had been chosen out of 200. The rest remained silent, absorbing the weight of what had just happened. Some were relieved, others crushed. Tomiski finally stepped forward again, scanning the faces of both chosen and left behind. It is done, he said. The rest of you remain in the militia. You will continue to train, continue to serve. Selenia still has use for you. His words carried weight, but did little to soothe the lingering tension. Those left behind stood stiffly, their expressions varying between quiet disappointment and begrudging acceptance. Some had clearly expected to be chosen. Others seemed relieved not to be pushed beyond what they had already endured. Alice barely noticed them. Her mind was still caught on Jesta's words, on the knowing smirk she had worn. She had been chosen. Dismissed, Tomiski ordered, his tone final. The recruits scattered, some congratulating each other, others disappearing into the barracks without another word. As the newly
Oh, thank you for sharing. I appreciate it, honey. I didn't see if you said anything. Oh, I saw that. I like you too.
It keeps getting drowned out by you liking the live. I appreciate. Well, actually, let me do the sharing thing as well. I should probably do that. Come on. Share that one to the spawnling. I swear I have a brain some days. It's freezing? I'm glad that it's relaxing though. I actually did a VA mindful breathing thing earlier. I'm probably gonna redo it though. Once I redo it, I'll send you the link. It's like one of 3 things I have on my YouTube. I was gonna do a thing. What was the thing? That's right.
Me.
Copy. Okay, I took something off of that internet load. Is that better? Or is it still freezing? Let me look and see. Okay. Let's... It's still... Which internet do I have it on? Is that better? I switched to internet. I can't tell if it's better, but I hope that it is. Anyway. Down there. Alright, where was I at? As the newly slit... As the newly slit... As the newly selected recruits prepared to leave with their respective commanders, Jesta approached approached. Jesta approached. Jesta approached. Jesta approached. Their respective commanders. Jesta approached Alice, her movements fluid and deliberate. "Walk with me," she said. Alice hesitated for only a second before following. They moved through the training grounds, away from the lingering recruits and into quieter shadows where torches flickered against the evening sky. Jesta's stride was steady, measured. She was leading Alice somewhere, but she wasn't in a rush. "You carry yourself like him," Jesta said, her tone even. "Dirk Halcyon." Alice stiffened. Her expression remained unreadable. "You knew him?" Jesta nodded. "I did, and I respected your father." Alice's fingers curled slightly. "How do you know I'm his daughter?" Jesta glanced at her, eyes sharp with certainty. "I remember seeing you with him during the trials last year, and when I met him a few years ago, he never stopped talking about you." Alice's breath hitched. "You met him?" Jesta's lips twitched slightly. "I traveled to Imberfall with King Sesta a few years back. Dirk was a man who knew exactly what he stood for. A warrior, through and through. And a father who would have done... And a father who would have done anything for his daughter." Something tightened in Alice's chest. She turned her gaze toward the dim horizon. "Then you know what happened to him." Jesta's expression darkened. "I know what they say happened." She stopped walking, turning to face Alice directly. "But I don't believe the king's version of events." Alice's pulse quickened. She kept her face neutral, her voice measured. "What do you mean?" Jesta studied her carefully, as if deciding how much to say. Then, finally, she spoke. "I mean, Desmond Alistar is a liar." Her voice was quiet but firm. "And whatever he's planning, Emberfall is moving. Selenia isn't ready." Alice clenched her fists, forcing herself to breathe evenly. The words dug into her like a blade, twisting against something raw and unresolved inside her. She had suspected as much, But hearing it from Jesta made it feel real. Still, she couldn't reveal her own intentions. Not yet. So instead, she met Jesta's gaze, her voice steady. Then I suppose it's a good thing I chose the shade cloaks. Jesta gave her a small, knowing smile. No, Halcyon. Her dark eyes gleamed in the torchlight. The shade cloaks chose you.
Ah. Oh, well, thank you for the tippy tappies. I appreciate it.
You don't need to send me coins, trust me. If you share my live, that is greatly appreciated. If you wouldn't mind just checking out my showcase, if you're somebody who enjoys Javi or the skinny mixes or the ashwagandha gummies or my lovely desk, they're all in there. They're all things that I actually use. And I also have my tree of links in there with a bit of my story. But I appreciate you being here, because the last couple of times I've been singing all by myself a few times. Apologies, the caffeination is kicking in. Shade cloaks chose you. Alice let Jesta's words settle over her. The shade cloaks chose you. There was something final in the way she said it. Something that made... Thank you. Dude, I'm loving it so far. And I've read little tidbits of it, but it's really good. And he said that he's probably going to be exploring more of Alice's story. So, and I've been promised those books too, and I'm excited about that as well. I'm currently on chapter 19. There are 34 chapters, but I'm about halfway done page-wise. But it will be out on Kindle on the 12th, and I'm hoping to have this done shortly thereafter, but I can't make any promises. I technically have until December 31st to complete it, but I want to have it done as close to the Kindle release as possible. So, we shall see. Wish me luck on that. I'm trying. Something final in the way she said it. Thank you. It's my first book. I'm so excited. There was something final in the way she said it. Where was I at on the page? There it is. Ah. Something that made Alice realize this was not just an invitation. It was a challenge. Jesta didn't speak again as they walked, leading Alice toward the edge of the training grounds where the torches burned lower, casting long shadows. The hum of the barracks faded behind them, replaced with the quiet rustling of wind over stone. It was only then that Jesta finally stopped, crossing her arms as she studied Alice. You fought harder than anyone here, Jesta said, and I don't mean on the training field. Alice didn't respond. She wasn't sure if she was supposed to. Neighbor's motorcycle. Let me see if it ruined that take. Alice didn't respond. Alice didn't respond. She wasn't sure if she was supposed to. Okay, no, it was at the end. Awesome.
Thank you for the tippy tappies.
So it sounds like there's a bunch of motorcycles, like at one of the nearby lights or something, because I hear a bunch of them. It might be a couple of minutes before I can continue recording. I can go through and remove some of the breath marks while I'm at it. Thank you. I I'm a very big listener of audiobooks, and I like to kind of incorporate the different things that I liked of the different voices, but to not have it be so impersonal, I guess. I know that it's not going to be a style that fits a lot of books, but I think I'd be I think I'm doing a pretty good job of the fantasy realm. I can still hear the motorcycles. Thank you for joining, Wolf. Appreciate you. I served with someone who went by Wolfie. Medieval style. Kind of. It's a fantasy book, that's for sure. It starts with a prophecy, and it goes from there. But the very beginning of the book is when Alice is born and her mother passes away, like while Alice was brought into the world. And then it's actually really good. I have been talking to the author though, and he um is definitely taking the criticisms about like repetitive words and phrases and such. So he's definitely not an author who's like, oh my god, how dare.
He's a sweetheart.
And I'm getting spoiled because I just got my second audiobook contract, and that guy, I don't know how he wrote a book. I really don't. His first message to me was in text speak, like not spelling words out completely, like the T9 text days, text speak.
Yeah, he's awesome size.
N.S. Anderson. He is actually under my followers as Milksteak, if you would like to follow him and follow along his writing process. I know he's working on another world right now as well, but I'm not certain what it entails.
A day.
That is breath. I swear, if that neighbor decides to work on his motorcycle again, I'm gonna stick my meta on him. Yeah, it was bad. I'm like, you're an author. This is a professional correspondence. Spell out your words. We just signed a like contract. And then the book is so Mary Sue. I did just get permission to record it on live. So that'll be interesting. But I do need to wait until he verifies the first 15 minutes before I put any more effort into it. Because if he doesn't verify the first 15 minutes, then the rest of the contract is void.
Yeah, wrong button.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm just waiting. Because it took him, I messaged him on the 30th, and he just responded today. And it took him 3 days after I signed the contract, which was only an hour after he offered me the job. It took him 3 days after that to send me the manuscript. And then the entire book is centered. So I had to copy the entire book into a document and manually go in and erase all of the enters that he did, because every time he got to the end of a line, he hit enter instead of letting it wrap. But I already signed the contract. So I wanted a challenge, and I should have been careful about what I asked for. Because, I mean, I'm making it sound good, but at the same time, I'm making it sound good. It's, I don't know how I feel about that. The power I wield was not meant for mortal men. Yeah, I know. I, t- I told killed me because like he's been super communicative, and he'll actually hop in the live from time to time when he sees me on here and just be like, "Oh my god." Okay, I don't hear them anymore. Yeah, exactly. Because the one who my second contract, if you look him up on Amazon, he has like 5 pages, and like he has himself as the author and his stage name as the co-author, and they're all different genres. So it feels like he just kind of threw a bunch of things out there to see what'll stick. But if he gets any sales, then hopefully I'll get some money. But if nothing else, at least I'll get some good clips out of it because it's supposed to be a romance. So hopefully I'll get some good emotional scenes out of it for my repertoire. She wasn't sure if she was supposed to. Okay, I do not hear the motorcycles any longer, so let us continue. Justa continued, her voice calm but edged with something sharper. I've seen recruits push themselves beyond their limits. Some break, some become something else. She tilted her head slightly. You didn't break, did you? Alice met her gaze, unflinching. No. Justice smirked, just slightly. Good. The moment stretched between them, its weight settling deep in Alice's bones. She could feel it. This was no ordinary assignment. The Shade Cloaks weren't just another division, and Justa Valance wasn't just another commander. She was testing Alice, measuring her, deciding just how far she was willing to go. Hmm? Yeah, in these cases, they are royalty share. So I get 20% of whatever the audiobook makes. I have a good feeling about this one. Like I'm really enjoying it. But the other one, mm, we'll see. Um my brain stopped. If you want to look it up, it's called Mr. Hedonist by Hash Blink. Yeah, it depends on the contract because there's several different ones. Um, these two in particular, I got through ACX, who is partnered with Audible, and they have 3 different types. They have the royalty share, which is this one, because the author and narrator split 40%, so we both get 20% of the sales. There is per finished hour, which is when as soon as you complete an hour is when they're able to pay you like the portion and once it's approved and all of that. Um, and those are the immediate rewards, but you don't get things long term. And then there's the royalty share plus, where you get a portion. I think it's like half of what you would have gotten. I'm not entirely certain because I don't have any of those contracts yet. Um, I think it's 10% plus whatever they are offering per hour. So you get like half of the residuals, but you get some upfront too. Um, so it just varies. It depends on what the author is wanting the contract to be. But these are my first books, so I can't really be picky about that. But yeah, it's really interesting though, like how it all works and fits together. But I've been working towards this for like 3 years, so I'm like, oh. Or she was willing to go. All right, let me get the right tab open again. Wrong screen. I hit the R on the wrong screen. I have to find where I was in the chapter.
Yeah.
Where she was willing to go.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it.
I think it's at 15, it says.
But I appreciate it.
Where she was willing to go. And that's a plane. Yeah, mine's showing 16.3.
But I appreciate it. I will never say no to tippy tappies.
Alice exhaled, her fingers flexing at her sides.
When do we start?
Just as smirk deepened. At dawn. With that, she turned and walked away, her steps disappearing into the night. Is one of the cats in here? It is really weird. Let me see if... Yeah, it's showing 17.1 now. On both my screens. I don't know.
Technology be weird.
Peering into the night. Alice remained where she stood for a long moment, the cold wind tugging at her cloak. Her mind spun, replaying the last few weeks, the tests, the mission, the fights, the whispers of Malice Alice following her every step. She had wanted this, fought for it. But now that she stood at the threshold of something bigger, she couldn't shake the feeling that she was walking into something far more dangerous than she had anticipated. Emberfall was moving. Selenia wasn't ready. And Alice Halcyon had just been handed a blade she wasn't sure she could control. She clenched her fists and turned toward the barracks. Alice entered the barracks, the door creaking softly as she slipped inside. The room was dimly lit, the flickering embers in the fireplace casting long shadows across the wooden walls. Quiet was thick, broken only by the steady rhythm of slow, deep breathing. Everyone was asleep. She exhaled through her nose, the tension in her body refusing to ease, even as she made her way to her bunk. Sorry, my neck is being rude. Oh, there we go.
So it was your device being weird.
Don't mind me.
And a little bit unique.
Even as she made her way to her bunk. Motorcycles, motorcycles. Sounds like another group. I wonder if there's something going on. Aw, thank you. I appreciate it. I think the next one is 25. I think it's like 1, 5, 10. I just
Here, the cat again.
If I turn this and find a cat again. No, she's not in that one.
One moment.
I'm just knocking everything over. I heard you. Where are you? If you come in here, you gotta be quiet, little one.
Little Miss Ring-a-ding-a-ding-a-ding.
Girl. This is Princess. She was getting away from Bobby, which is the only reason why I let her in here. Her full name is Princess Daffodil Spooky Pants, first of her name. Go ahead and get into your nook, little one. She likes to get into one of these little, like, Evely's storage bins, and one of them doesn't have any doors. So she'll, like, curl up in there. Princess, if you do the ring-a-ding-a-ding a lot, I'm gonna kick you out. Alright. Let's try this again, shall we?
Yeah, she's a sweetie.
She picked us. That's for sure. Even as she made her way to her bunk. Let's see. Movement gets my breathing all wonky. Yay, disabilities. Alright, let's see. Where do her bunk? There it is. The air inside was warmer than the outside chill, but Alice still felt cold. Princess, settle into your nap position, please. But Alice still felt cold. But Alice... Alright, at least she jingled, like, in between sentences, so I don't have to re-record it. And another motorcycle. I don't know. I need to figure out if there's a way to, like, make it less sensitive or something so it doesn't pick them up all the time. But Alice still felt cold.
It's Gumi. Can you stop?
Thank you. Nice. But Alice still felt cold. The weight of just his words, of everything that had happened today, pressed against her ribs. And a door. Even with my sound dampening. Pressed against her ribs. She sat on the edge of her bunk, unlacing her boots with slow, deliberate movements. Did I say deliberate? Unlacing her boots with slow, deliberate movements. I did.
That's not a word, Brain.
On the edge of her bunk, unlacing her boots with slow, deliberate movements. Her hands trembled slightly, though she told herself it was only exhaustion. She had pushed herself beyond her limits for weeks, clawing her way to this moment, and now she had won. Cohabitant. And now she had won. She had been chosen. So, ugh. Why didn't it feel like a victory? She laid back, staring at the ceiling, her mismatched eyes tracing the wooden beams above. Sleep didn't come easily. It never did. It never did. But eventually, the exhaustion in her bones dragged her under. The feast stretched before her again. The same table, the same faces. Firelight flickered, casting warm glows against the wooden walls. Laughter echoed, the sound of goblets clinking filling the space. Alice sat at the head of the table. Dirk sat across from her. The competitors surrounded them. Brooke, Magra, Sace, Bragand. Their voices filled the air, their faces full of life. But it wasn't real. Alice knew that now. The warmth felt hollow. The laughter tinged with something sickly and wrong. The food smelled rich and inviting, but she knew that if she reached for it, it would turn to ash on her tongue. She didn't move. Then, one by one, the competitors turned toward her. Their smiles faded. Their eyes darkened. Brooke leaned forward, his voice a whisper. "You have to be stronger." Margaret tilted her head. "Use it, Alice. Use your anger." Sace's eyes hollowed. "They took everything from you." Reagan's voice was a quiet rasp. "Make them suffer." Okay. Sorry, sometimes I get into the emotions a bit deep and I have to take a moment. Okay. Alice's breath hitched. Her hands clenched into fists against the table, her nails digging into the wood. The air felt heavier, thicker, like something unseen pressing against her chest. Then she felt it. Cold steel in her palm. Firefang. She didn't remember drawing it. The competitors rose from their seats, their faces void of warmth. They stepped closer. "Do it," Mabra whispered. "Don't hesitate," Reagan urged. "Strike," Brooke said. She moved before she could think. The blade cut through them like shadow, like mist. One by one they fell, their bodies vanishing before they could hit the ground. Their voices didn't scream. They didn't resist. They only whispered. Stronger, faster, more. The last one collapsed and she turned. Dirk sat across from her, untouched. His gaze held her, steady and knowing. His face remained unreadable, but there was no judgment in his eyes. Only inevitability. Alice's breath shuddered as she lifted Firefang. her grip iron tight around the hilt. Her heart pounded against her ribs. The room felt smaller, the fire dimming, the edges of the dream pressing in. Dirk didn't move. He only watched her. She raised the blade, exhaling sharply. Then his voice cut through the silence. "It's your choice, Alice." Her breath caught. The world tilted. And then she woke. I don't like the dreams. They get too intense. Okay. For reference, she watched her father and all of the competitors be slaughtered by the king and his men right after a bunch of trials where they picked a champion. And she had to run away because they know that she saw. And so now she's with the other side and getting trained by them so that she can seek revenge. And Dirk is her father. Okay. Anyways. Alice bolted upright, her body rigid, her chest rising and falling in sharp, uneven breaths. Sweat clung to her skin, her heart hammering so hard she thought it might burst. The barracks were still dark, still silent. Her fingers flexed instinctively, reaching for Firefang at her side. It was warm in her grip. She swallowed hard, forcing herself to release it. Her pulse still pounded in her ears, her father's voice echoing in her skull. "It's your choice." Alice stared at the ceiling, her breath slowly evening out. Morning would come soon, and with it, her first day as a shadow cloak. And that is actually the end of chapter 19. That's one of the shorter chapters I've had. All right, let me save the project, and I will do the editing stuff later. Chapter 19, what was the name of it then?
Selection Day!
Saved. Gooey. My apologies. Hello, Dream. Thank you for joining. Greatly appreciated. And I'm once again all by myself. Oh well, it happens. It was nice having a buddy while it lasted. Oh, I'm apparently not even on the blue app. Whoops! Narration, description. Join me. Apparently wasn't even broadcasting to the blue app.
Bye-bye.
See what happened was. This has the puzzle piece. Ha! First try. Sometimes my fingers don't like to cooperate with that one.
Hey, don't fall over, please. I need you to stay right there.
Okay. Alrighty, let's see. being rude. Deep Latin. What are you at? You're still nice and charged. All right. Okay. Okay. Add new mono track. Okay. Chapter 20, Shade Cloaks.
Me?
Is there anybody even watching my thing? One viewer.
Oh. Hello, one viewer. I appreciate you. Don't know who you are, but I appreciate you.
Chapter 20, Shade Cloaks. Alice stood beside Jesta as the Shade Cloaks gathered in the secluded training grounds. No, Bobby. Alice stood beside Jesta as the Shade Cloaks gathered in the secluded training grounds, in a circle arena surrounded by towering trees and shaded by an overhead canopy. Unlike the open, orderly militia fields, this space felt like a hidden battlefield, unpredictable, filled with an air of danger. Jesta crossed her arms, her expression unreadable, surveying the small group. Unlike the sprawling divisions of the Moon Guard or the Frostblade Vanguard, the Shade Cloaks were few in number, including out... Ow.
Ew. Mm.
If my phone will cooperate. All right. Were few in number. Including Alice and Jesta, there were only 10. The Shade Cloaks don't get many new members, Jesta announced, her voice smooth but firm. We don't train soldiers. We train those willing to do what no one else will. Those capable of slipping into the dark and becoming something more. She placed a hand on Alice's shoulder, a signal to the others. This is Alice Halcyon. She is your newest recruit. Test her. A murmur passed through the group. Some were amused, others unreadable. Alice didn't French. Alice didn't flinch. Jesta motioned. Your new comrades. One by one, they stepped forward. Chance Ghost Vane, a shadow of a man, barely made a sound. His cold eyes flickered over Alice, calculating. Let me see how his voice is described. No description. I'll do him wispy because he's one of the shadows. He's a ghost. Let's see how well you disappear, he murmured before melting back into the shadow. Let's see how well you disappear, he murmured before melting back into the shadows. Kate the Raven Voss smirked. Let's see, does he describe her voice at all? Intrigue. Alice, huh? Let's see if your mind is as sharp as your blade. Her dark eyes gleamed with intrigue. We ain't dealing secrets and whispers here. Let's see how well you hold your own. Alice's gaze narrowed. She didn't react. Years in Emberfall had taught her to control her emotions, never to let her face betray her thoughts. Even now, before these elite warriors, she wouldn't flinch. Jessa cleared her throat, drawing attention. The Shade Cloaks don't take new blood lightly. Each of you proved yourself to be here. Alice will do the same. She gestured. Each of you will test her. Use your specialty. Push her. See what she can take. If she fails, she's not worthy. A low murmur passed between them. Alice felt the shift in the air. Anticipation. Challenge. Maybe even doubt. Good. She wanted to prove them wrong. Justa stepped back. Ghost, you're first. Chance Ghost Vane barely moved before vanishing. Alice tensed, shifting her stance. Waiting. Then the world blurred. A shift in the air behind her. Alice spun, her arm lashing out. But her fist met empty space. A whisper of movement to her right. A flash of fabric. She turned again. But Ghost was gone. Too slow, his voice murmured from somewhere unseen. Hello, thank you for joining. Much appreciated. If my cooperate.
Hello, Wolfie. Appreciate you.
From somewhere unseen. Alice exhaled, shutting out other sounds, focusing only on instinct. His game was distraction, confusion, making her doubt before striking. Alice didn't fall for it. Instead of reacting, she shifted her stance, slowing her breathing. Years had taught her how to read a battlefield, to anticipate movement. This was no different. She tilted her head slightly, unfocusing her eyes just enough to pick up the smallest movements. A flicker of shadow to her left, the faintest disturbance in the dust behind her. There. Alice didn't wait. She pivoted sharply, her foot sleeping out in a low arc. Her boot connected with something solid. A shin. A soft grunt of surprise. She lunged, grabbing fabric and twisting hard. A figure stumbled into view, barely catching himself. Chance straightened. His cold eye irritable. Neither spoke. From somewhere else. Did I say smoke or spoke? Neither spoke. Then he smirked. Not bad, he admitted. Alice didn't smirk back. She didn't care about approval. She had proven what she needed to. Jess's voice cut through the tension. Next. One by one, the shade cloaks tested her. Kate the Raven Voss was next. She circled Alice with an appraising gaze. I just messed that up because of the button.
New. New. Only delete this part, please. Thank you.
This was next. She circled Alice with an appraising gaze, a smirk fixed on her lips. Let's see if you can keep your secrets, little recruit. Before Alice could respond, Kate's voice dropped to a soft whisper. I'm going to ask you 3 questions. You will answer 1 truthfully, 1 with a lie, and 1 by saying nothing at all. And I'll know which is which. Alice narrowed her eyes. That's it? Kate grinned. It's harder than you think. Now, first question was, what's the last thing you stole? Alice hesitated for a fraction of a second. A dagger. It was the truth. Kate tilted her head. Who do you trust most in this camp? Alice smirked. You. The lie slipped easily. Kate's grin widened, eyes gleaming with amusement. Final question. Why did Jester pick you? Alice said nothing. For a long moment, Kate studied her, then let out a soft laugh. Interesting. She turned toward Jesta. She'll do. Jesta gave a single nod. Next. That sounded like a freaking DMV. Next. Nick Hollow Duskin stepped forward, his expression unreadable. A towering figure, his reputation as cold as his dual daggers. He didn't speak. He simply tossed a dull training blade at Alice's feet. Pick it up, he commanded. Alice did. The moment her fingers curled around the hilt, Nick lunged. He moved with terrifying speed, twin daggers flashing. Alice reacted on instinct, raising her blade just in time to deflect the first strike. Sparks danced as metal clashed. Nick was fast, faster than anyone she had fought. But speed alone didn't intimidate her. She adjusted, parrying another rapid succession of strikes. He fought with efficiency, every movement calculated to kill. Alice, however, fought with something deeper, something raw. Nick's blade whistled past her face, slicing a thin line across her cheek. He smirked. You're hesitating. Alice wiped the cut with the back of her hand, her expression cold. Then, without a word, she moved. Her counterattack was relentless. She parried high, then drove a sharp thrust toward his ribs. Nick twisted, barely avoiding it, but she was already pressing forward, pushing him back step by step. The moment he adjusted his footing, she swept low, knocking his legs out from under him. Low battery. Gonna plug her in.
Plugging in, plugging in. It's plugged in, it's plugged in.
Okay. She swept low. Yeah, I had a bit of a going on in my ear there for a moment. Swept low. Why are you still doing that? knocking his legs out from under him. Nick hit the ground with a sharp grunt, but before he could react, Alice was on him, the training blade pressed against his throat. Silence. Then he chuckled. Low, dark sound. Not bad, he admitted, not bothering to push her off. For a recruit. Alice held his gaze a moment longer before standing and tossing the blade aside. She didn't need his approval. I need to redo that word. She didn't need his approval. Just his voice brought through the quiet, broke. Just his voice broke through the quiet. Enough. Next. Marshal Echo Trevane stepped forward next, a smirk tugging at his lips. He was lean, quick, and unpredictable. Let's see if you can handle a little chaos, Malice, he said, rolling his shoulders. Alice braced herself, watching his movements carefully. Unlike Nick, who fought with precision, Echo radiated unpredictability. He didn't just fight, he played. His stance was loose, body swaying slightly, but his eyes were sharp, glinted with mischief. Alice knew better than to attack first. Echo's grin widened as if he could read her thoughts. Smart, he mused. Then, without warning, he moved. A blur of motion. He feinted left, but his real attack came from above. He leaped, twisting midair, and hurled a handful of dust straight at her face. Alice barely turned in time, but the distraction worked. The moment her vision blurred, Echo struck low, sweeping her legs out from under her. She hit the ground hard. Laughter echoed. Rule 1, Echo said, crouching beside her. There's no honor in our fights, Malice. Only survival. Alice growled, rolling back to her feet, eyes burning. Then let's see how long you survive. She lunged. This time she expected the tricks. When Echo went to throw another handful of dust, Alice twisted sharply, letting the dirt sail past. Then, instead of attacking head-on, she dropped low and swept her own leg out in a counter-move. Echo leapt back just in time, narrowly avoiding being knocked off his feet. His grin widened. Now you're learning. Alice didn't respond. She pressed forward, fists flying. Echo ducked and weaved, never staying in one place. He fought like a man who had never known structure. Fluid, erratic, and entirely unpredictable. But Alice adapted. Hello. Strawberry wine. Sorry. I think in music a lot. And entirely unpredictable. But Alice adapted. She didn't try to match his rhythm. She shattered it. Instead of lunging wildly, she forced him into a pattern. Her strikes deliberate, calculated. A punch to the ribs, he dodged left. A knee to the stomach, he rolled back. Another punch, another dodge. Then she struck before he could react. Alice feinted another kick, but stopped short. Echo, already moving to evade, was caught off guard. Alice used that hesitation, stepping in and slamming her elbow into his jaw. His head snapped, and he staggered. Before he could recover, Alice shoved him backward, sending him sprawling into the dirt. Silence. Echo groaned, rubbing his jaw. Then, to her surprise, he started laughing. Oh, you're going to fit in just fine now. I messed that up. Oh, you're going to You're going to fit in just fine, Malice. Oh, you're going to fit in just fine, Malice. Alice rolled her shoulders. Shoulders. Curse eroticism. Alice rolled her shoulders, breathing heavily. She didn't bother responding. She had won. That was enough. Jesta's voice rang out. Enough. Her sharp gaze flickered between them, lingering on Alice. Next. Anthony. Anthony Bones Toxin stepped forward, his movements eerily smooth. Unlike the others, there was no amusement in his expression, no challenge, just quiet calculation. Alice tensed. This one's different, Bones said, his voice low and measured. You rely on your instincts, but let's see if you can trust your own body. He reached into his cloak, pulled out a small vial, and tossed it toward her. Alice caught it. The liquid inside was a deep, murky blue. Drink. She frowned, tightening her grip. What is it? Bones simply tilted his head. A test. The others watched with interest, some smirking, some curious. Alice glanced at Jesta, who gave no indication. So she pulled out the cork and downed the contents in one gulp. It was bitter, sharp. It burned on the way down. Then suddenly the world blurred. Alice's balance shifted. The ground beneath her feet felt wrong, the air thick. Her vision swam, dark spots blooming at the edges. She realized what this was. A poison. Not lethal, but enough to disorient. She heard Bones's voice, distant but clear. Now fight. That was not low enough. Now fight. Alice gritted her teeth as he moved. He struck without hesitation, a dagger flashing. She barely dodged, her reaction sluggish, her limbs heavy. Her head spun, nausea clawing at her throat. This was the real test. She couldn't rely on strength. She couldn't rely on speed. She had to force her mind to work through the haze. Alice inhaled sharply, grounding herself. She had trained for this. Her father had drilled it into her. How to fight when her body screamed for rest. How to push past exhaustion, pain, even fear. This was no different. Bones moved fast, aiming another precise strike toward her ribs. Alice didn't try to block it outright. She wasn't fast enough. Instead, she twisted at the last second, letting the daggers skim past her side, barely grazing her tunic. She had to outthink him. Her sluggish limbs weren't a disadvantage if she turned them into a trap. She let herself appear slower than she actually was, stumbling slightly as she dodged. Bones took the bait. He lunged, closing the distance to finish the fight. That was when Alice struck. She didn't block. She didn't evade. She let him come to her. And then she moved, fast and brutal. Her elbow slammed into his wrist, forcing the dagger loose. As it fell, she caught it mid-air and turned the weapon on him. The tip of the blade pressed against his throat. Silence. Bones didn't flinch. He barely blinked, his eyes still sharp and unreadable. Then, slowly, a grin ghosted across his lips. Interesting, he murmured. You learn fast. Alice stepped back, tossing the dagger at his feet. The efforts of the poison. The effects. The efforts of the poison. Tossing the dagger at his feet. The effects of the poison were still fading, but she was steady now, stronger. Jesta gave a single nod. Enough. The shade cloaks murmured amongst themselves, a mix of quiet approval and lingering skepticism. Alice didn't care. She had survived. She had proven herself, even under the worst conditions. Jesta stepped forward, her expression unreadable. You passed, she said finally. Barely. A few chuckles rippled, but Alice didn't react. Jesta's eyes stayed on her. You learned fast, but you're reckless. If that had been a real mission, you would have died. Alice wiped the sweat from her brow, her breath still even despite the lingering effects of the poison. But I didn't. Jesta's lips twitched slightly, almost a smile, but it never fully formed. No, you didn't. She turned to the rest of the shade cloaks. That is enough for today. Dismissed. The group dispersed, some casting Alice another glance before fading into the shadows. Alice turned to leave, but Jessa's voice stopped her. Not you. She exhaled sharply, but didn't argue. Jessa waited until the others were gone before stepping closer. You think you've impressed them? Alice lifted her chin. I don't care if I did. Jessa's expression darkened. You should. Because those are the only people who will ever have your back in the field. They don't trust you yet. And after today, they're wondering if they should. Alice clenched her fists. I don't need anyone to trust me. No? Jesta said sharply. She stepped closer, her voice cold and sharp. Then tell me, Halcyon, when you're bleeding in the middle of enemy territory, who do you think is going to drag you back? You? Alice didn't flinch. If I have to. Jesta scoffed. That's not how this works. She gestured toward the empty training grounds. You think you can fight like this forever? Alone? The Shade Cloaks aren't just assassins or spies. We are a unit. We survive because we trust each other. Her voice lowered, laced with warning. And right now, no one trusts you. Alice's jaw tightened, but she said nothing. Justa shook her head. You want to be the best? Fine. But if you don't learn to rely on the people around you, you'll end up dead. She turned, her gaze lingering on Alice for one last moment before she added, and it won't be the enemy that puts you in the dirt. Ugh. All right. She strode away, leaving Alice standing alone in the cold. For a long moment, she didn't move. Her fists were still clenched, her heartbeat pounding. She wanted to argue, wanted to say that Justa was wrong, but she wasn't. Alice exhaled sharply, then turned toward the barracks. She didn't need trust. She didn't need their approval. She didn't need to fight like this forever, just long enough. She just needed to be stronger. That line was just his notes, I think. Be removed. Okay. More motorcycles. Hello, Kana. Thank you for joining me. Greatly appreciate it. Stronger. She barely made it 10 steps before she heard the familiar sound of boots crunching behind her. Didn't take long for you to start making friends. Salmon's voice was light with amusement, but with an edge. Alice sighed, rolling her shoulders without looking at him. They'll get over it. That needs to be a new paragraph. Salmon fell into step beside her, hands in his pockets. Will they? He tilted his head, watching her. Or are they already wondering if you're worth keeping around? Alice kept walking, her steps steady despite the tightness in her chest. I don't care what they think. Salmon hummed, a low, knowing sound. Sure you don't. She cast him a sharp glance. I don't.
Hey,
What just happened?
I'm obsessed with it. I'm listening to it nonstop. It's really good.
What the It probably made me do the thing and I didn't see it and I apologize. I don't. His smirk didn't fade. Good, 'cause if you did, you'd be wasting your time. He gestured vaguely back toward the training grounds. People like Jester. I just clicked. People like Jester, like the rest of them, they say they want strength. But what they really want is control. Alice clenched her jaw. That wasn't entirely untrue. Jester's words still echoed, warning her about trust, about needing others to survive. But she hadn't survived. But she had survived plenty alone. She had watched the people closest to her die. She had been betrayed, hunted, nearly broken, and yet she was still here. I don't need them, Alice muttered. Salmon chuckled. No, you don't. He slowed slightly, studying her. But they need you. Alice frowned. What? Salmon's smirk widened. You think the Shade Cloaks have had anyone like you before? Someone who doesn't just follow orders but forces the world to move around them? His voice lowered. You're already stronger than them, Malice. They just don't see it yet. Alice inhaled slowly. The certainty in his voice was unsettling. Salmon stopped, turning to face her. Your anger? It's a gift. A weapon. And they're trying to dull it. His green eyes gleamed. But you don't have to let them. Alice held his gaze, something dark twisting deep in her gut. Salmon took a step back, his smirk still in place. I'll see you tomorrow, Malice. Then he was gone. Alice stood in the quiet, the weight of the night pressing down. Salmon's words lingered, curling around her thoughts like smoke. Impossible to grasp, but impossible to ignore. You don't have to let them. Her fingers flexed. A weapon. A force. That was what he saw in her. What she had always wanted to be. She exhaled sharply, turning back toward the barracks. The torches flickered as she walked, casting long, twisting shadows. Every step felt heavier, her mind still echoing with the day's events. The testing, the warning. Jesta had looked at her, as if she wasn't sure whether to sharpen Alice or break her down. The barracks were quiet. The others were already asleep or pretending. Alice moved to her bunk, sitting at the edge, staring at the scarred wood of the floor. She should be exhausted. Her body ached, but her mind refused to rest. She lay back, staring at the ceiling, listening to the slow, steady breathing of the other shade cloaks. Then, like clockwork, it came. The dream. I hear a motorcycle again. Actually, I do believe it is time for a break because I have been live for an hour and a half and I haven't stood up in that time. So, well, other than to see the cat. Anyways, I shall return. Okay. Come on. Mute the microphone. Okay. There we go. I am still here. I am just on the other